If you look at the stability of relationships over time, something that's been extensively studied mainly by psychologists, but now also by neurobiologists, what you find is that there are some key features of interactions between individuals that predict that a relationship will last. And those are many, but mainly fall under this category of positive delusions. But there are also just a handful of things that predict that a relationship will fail over time. This is largely the work of the Gottmans. It's actually a husband and wife team up at the University of Washington in Seattle. The Gottmans, they've established a method by which they can look at video interactions between couples and with very high degree of certainty predict whether or not those couples will stay together or break up over time. And they've identified what they call the 4 horsemen of relationships. These are things that essentially almost always predict that a couple will break up. And I think the current number on this is that Gottman can predict divorce with 94% accuracy, which if you think about it is pretty remarkable. So even though these are purely psychological studies, I'm not aware of any analyses of underlying physiology. So what are those things? Those 4 behaviors, what they call the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for relationships, are 1, criticism, 2, defensiveness, 3, stonewalling, and 4, contempt, with contempt being the most powerful predictor of breaking up. Criticism, of course, does not mean that there's no place for criticism in stable relationships. Of course, there is. It has to do with how frequent and how intensely that criticism is voiced. Defensiveness, of course, is defensiveness we know as the sort of lack of ability to hear another or to adopt their stance. So lack of empathy, I think, is one way to interpret defensiveness. Stonewalling, which is actually another form of lack of empathy. It's a turning off of this neural circuit that's so critical for desire, love, and attachment. The stonewalling essentially means the emotional response or the request of another is completely cut off. And then contempt. And contempt has actually been referred to as the sulfuric acid of relationship. I didn't say that, but Gottman and colleagues have. And contempt, of course, by definition, is the feeling that a person or thing is beneath consideration, worthlessness, or deserving scorn. And apparently they can identify this in the videos of couples having discussions and interacting by very elaborate eye rolls, by expressions of anger in one individual when their partner is actually expressing enthusiasm or excitement about something. It's the, oh yeah, you would say that, or deep-seated resentment toward the other, so much so that it's apparent that one kind of actively dislikes the other partner. So contempt, disregard for something that should be taken into account is the other way to think about it. That runs counter to all of the neural circuits, all 3 of the neural circuits that we talked about before. It certainly is, it is the antithesis of empathy. It is anything but a positive delusion. It's really looking at the other individual, either accurately or inaccurately, as somebody that you kind of despise. And then it is an absolute inversion of the autonomic seesaw matching that I was talking about before. It's a dissociating of your seesaw from their seesaw. They're very excited about something. You're unexcited by it. In fact, it's an inversion of their seesaw where they're excited, you're down. They're down, you're up. Okay, so it's basically an inversion of all of the neural circuits that Helen Fisher and others have identified as critical for desire, love, and attachment, and therefore it's not surprising that it is so strongly predictive of breakups, and in the case of married couples, of divorce.